So in the last class, we were trying to talk about stability of your finite slopes based on Swedish circle method, and then we went on to see the Taylor stability charts, and we have seen the stability of your finite slope in case if the tension crack gets developed, how does the factor of safety gets changed, or subsequently in case if there is a water pressure or water getting occupied into the tension crack region, so how the factor of safety of that particular slope gets modified. So all that cases we have seen in our last couple of classes. Next, in today's class, we'll start talking about how to analyze your given slope based on what is called as ordinary method of slices. So earlier, when we said if your finite slope is undergoing the failure, we said the part of the finite slope or the region of the slope which is trying to undergo the failure is considered as a single unit. So that complete soil medium is considered to be acting like a single unit. And we have seen how that single unit is trying to undergo the displacement or sliding rather. But when it comes to the case of your soil, which is considered on a whole as a single unit, which is undergoing the failure, the problem is if you look at your failure surface, I repeat, if you are looking at the failure surface of your finite slope, what in general we said is the failure surface of your finite slope is going to be mostly an arc of a circle. When you say it is an arc of a circle, so the amount of normal stress what gets developed, if you want to calculate, okay, so on that failure surface, the amount of normal stress that gets developed, so the normal stress what is going to get developed continues to change from place to place along that failure surface. If I consider this to be my failure surface, the amount of normal stress what I look at here would be different, here would be different, here would be different. Why is it going to be different? Because the angle at which your failure surface is existing is continuously changing from place to place. I repeat, the angle at which your failure surface is existing is continuously changing from place to place. If your failure surface, the angle at which your failure surface is existing with the horizontal, if it is continuously changing, then it is obvious that your normal stress what you calculate. How do we calculate the normal stress? Normal stress is calculated as W into cos alpha. So that so-called alpha angle continuously getting changed. So if the alpha angle is continuously getting changed, then your so-called normal stress what you are trying to talk about is also changing from point to point. If normal stress is getting changed from point to point, then the way how we are estimating our factor of safety by simply considering some constant alpha angle may not be really very accurate. Okay. So that's the reason why what we do is that complete region of the soil which is undergoing the sliding because of your circular mode of failure. So that complete part of the soil, we try to divide it into some number of elements. Rather, we call it as slices, pieces rather. Okay. So the total width of the failure soil or the total width of the zone of your failure of the soil is going to be divided into n number of slices, n number of elements, vertical elements. Now, what is the advantage of those n number of elements? Now, if you look at each of the element, at the bottom of each of the element where you have your failure surface being defined, okay, so we approximate that to be a straight line, though it is a curvilinear portion. So let's say, for example, this particular element, what I am trying to look at, the failure surface which is associated at the bottom of the element. Okay. So though that particular failure surface, let me refer that element here again. Though the failure surface is a curved surface. So as the width of the element is relatively small, we assume, though it is a failure surface which is curved surface, we approximate this to be a straight line. And with that approximation of straight line, we go on to understand how much is the slope of this particular failure surface with the horizontal for that particular element, which has got some weight Wi. Okay, or rather I can say delta Wi. What does that delta Wi indicates? It is the weight of that particular ith element. Okay, so ith slice. what is the weight of that particular ith slice if I know, and what is the slope that particular ith slice is making with the horizontal. So then I can say that angle is something alpha I, the angle what your failure surface of that particular slice is making with the horizontal. If I know that angle, then what is going to be a normal force component? Normal force component here, that is perpendicular to the failure surface, is what I'll write it as Ni, where Ni indicates the normal force component acting on that particular ith slice. So which I can write it as delta Wi, or maybe Wi simply, which is the weight of that particular ith component, into alpha cos alpha I. So that's how I'm going to make my life simple, and I'll try to, if Ni is known, then I can go on to calculate what is my alpha N, that's a normal stress acting on that particular ith element, which is nothing but your normal force divided by the area on which that particular normal force is acting. And once the normal stress is known, then I can go on to write down your factor of safety expression. So how do we write down your expression for factor of safety, considering both your C5 soil? So it's nothing but total resisting force comes into picture because of your cohesive force, because of your shear resistance. Okay, so cohesive force, how much is that force being resisted because of the cohesion between the particles? How much resisting force is coming because of the cohesive nature between the particles? So that is nothing but cohesion into the area on which that particular cohesive force or cohesion was getting developed between particle to particle, plus your resisting force because of your friction between the particles along that failure surface. So because of the friction between the particles along the failure surface, how much is that additional resistance coming into picture? Means it is your frictional force. I repeat, it is your frictional force. So how much is my frictional force? Frictional force is nothing but N into tan phi is what we write it as our frictional force. So accordingly, we can go on to write down that, and we'll be able to say how much is your total resisting force. So if I know how much is my total resisting force, what is the corresponding perpendicular distance with respect to the center, then force into perpendicular distance defines you what is your resisting moment divided by your force which is causing the driving in your soil medium. So which is that force which is responsible for causing the driving in your soil medium? It is the tangential component of the weight of that particular element. So once we know the tangential component, then tangential component, it's into its corresponding perpendicular distance. If I go on to write down, I'll be getting how much is your moment which is trying to induce the failure in your soil. How much is the moment which is trying to drive the soil in the downward direction to initiate the failure in the soil. Okay. So that's how we go on to calculate it, and we'll be able to understand how much is going to be the factor of safety by dividing the complete zone of failure into n number of slices. Approach is going to be same. More or less what we are going to be writing down expressions wise, everything more or less remains the same. But only difference is the total zone of failure in that particular finite slope region is divided into n number of slices. Now, when we are going to divide that failure zone into n number of slices, I can divide that total failure zone into n number of slices of equal width. The width of each element is going to be same, or I can randomly consider the width of this element to be something, width of the other element to be something, width of the other element to be something else, according to your requirement and the conditions that you are needed to satisfy based on certain guidelines what we need to follow while dividing that particular zone of failure into slices. If it is a homogeneous soil, it would be better if you can divide your zone of failure of the complete soil medium into slices which are of equal width. The width of element 1, width of element 2, width of element 3, width of element 4, and so on. Whatever number of elements that you have divided it into. So if the width of each of the element is same, your work would become little easier. But in case if it is non-homogeneous soil like layered soil, so we have certain conditions what we are required to be satisfying. In such case, we may not be able to divide your complete zone of failure into number of slices which are of same width. Okay, so there you might be required to divide your failure zone into slices, but however of not the same width. Each element or each slice is of not going to be same width. But however, the approach, the way how we are going to be solving it, or the way how we are going to be analyzing that particular slope based on method of slices is going to be same. Okay, this method we call it as method of slices, or this particularly is also called as Fellenius method, because Fellenius is the person who has given this particular method. So we call this ordinary method of slices also as Fellenius method. Okay, so now let us try to quickly understand what are the conditions that we need to be satisfying before we divide that complete failure soil into number of slices. Okay, so certain guidelines which are to be taken into consideration. So guidelines for slice selection. So how do we need to divide the failure zone into number of slices? Slices do not have to be of equal width. So this is one thing what we can understand. So it need not be that slices has to have equal width always. What does the width of the slice means? So this value, let's say this is element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4, and likewise. So this I'll call it as width of element 1. This distance I'll call it as width of element 2. This distance I'll call it as width of element 3. This distance I should call it as width of element 4, and so on. So this B1, B2, B3, B4, the width of each slice what I have represented, they may be same, they may not be same. So condition is that slices do not have to be of equal width. So when you are dividing the slices, all the slices need not have the same width. But if they have same width, no problem. In case if you cannot divide it into same width to satisfy some other conditions, then also no issue. You can still analyze. For convenience, second condition, for convenience, base arc of each slice should pass through one soil type only. In case if you are looking at the failure surface, in the case of that non-homogeneous soil, so what we are considering is that so-called base arc in the sense the base of each of the element, that's a failure surface what you are defining corresponding to the bottom of each of the element. So it is assumed, or for our convenience, it is considered that the base arc of the failure surface is considered to be represented in a way that it passes through only one of the layer, not through two different layers. When it passes through two different layers, what happens is that when you are trying to talk about the amount of resistance that is getting developed at the bottom of that particular arc surface, that is what we define it as your failure surface. If this failure surface is defined to be passing through one layer of the soil, this is let's say layer 2, this is let's say layer 1. So what is going to happen is some portion of the soil failure surface is in layer 1, another portion is in layer 2. So for one portion, I have to consider what is called as your cohesion and angle of shearing resistance properties of the soil layer 1. For some reason, I have to consider C5 values of soil layer 2. So for that smaller width itself, for understanding the condition of resistance developed along the failure surface in that smaller width region, if I go on to make my life complicated, so it would variation in the resistance what you calculate would be relatively small, as the width of the element is relatively small. So what we say is that for convenience, either you consider the failure surface to be passing either through first layer or second layer. Assume that no, it is either passing through what is called as your first layer or second layer. So to make our life simple for our convenience. Next, slice width should be limited. Okay, so you cannot go for the width of the slice to be relatively more. So as much as possible, limit the width of the slice. If the width of the slice which is considered to be more, what would happen is if the width is more, then there is a possibility. If you look at here, the third element, the bottom of the third element, because the width of the third element what we are looking at is more. So the bottom of the third element is a curved surface. So approximating a curved surface of this nature as straight line is relatively not very accurate. Okay, so more chances of committing the errors is what we have. Okay, so that's the reason. Do not go on to consider the slices of more width, because assuming the curved surface as a straight line between those 2 points would be very crude in the case if the width of the element is more, because the curve length is going to be higher when compared to that of the length of that 2 points which are considered to be straight, which we are defining with a straight line. So that's the reason why we say consider a width of the element which is relatively limited, so that though you approximate the curved length as a straight line, still not much variation we come across with. Okay, those are some of the conditions what we need to take care of when we are going to be dividing your failure zone into number of slices. Okay, so now this particular method of slices is what is very much applicable in the case of your C5 soils, but it doesn't mean that no, we the earlier methods what we are specifically mentioning for C soils, it doesn't mean we cannot apply for your phi soils which has got your phi parameter also. We were generally talking about for both C5 soils, whatever the method that we have been dealing with. So we said, irrespective what is mentioned there, it doesn't matter. In case if we are trying to apply for both C and soils which has got both C and phi parameters, we have seen how to write down the expressions for factor of safety, or we have seen how to apply that, how to analyze that particular finite slope for the soil which has got both C5 parameters. Yeah, so understand, in the case of C5 soils, the normal stress would change along the slip surface. Already I have talked about. Okay, so different normal stresses mean shear resistance what we are going to be calculating is also different. Okay, so that's the reason why we divide that particular failing slope, the slope of that particular region which is trying to undergo the failure. So we divide that particular slope into number of slices, so that once we divide the slope into number of slices, then for that particular slice at its bottom, at the base of the arc, how much is the normal stress getting developed? For other slice, how much is the normal stress? Likewise, we can go on to calculate. Okay, now let's quickly see how do we calculate the factor of safety based on method of slices. Okay, so which is otherwise also called as your Fellenius method. So what we have done is this particular slope which is undergoing the failure is divided into some n number of slices, let's assume, and this is the point which we are calling it as your center of rotation of your failure surface. Okay, so let's say this is the vertical direction, right? Now what I'll just try to understand is I look at each of the slice in this particular method of slices. What we do is we go on to define some angle. What is that angle? Your failure surface. At what angle of inclination your failure surface is existing is what we'll go on to calculate. So for that, for defining that failure surface, what we do is we consider the center of the width of each element at the base of the arc. Okay, so what is that center of width of the element means? Okay, so for let's say element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4, and likewise I have got n number of elements into which this particular failure slope is divided. Now in case if I am considering the width of each element to be same, then I can say your width of each slice is nothing but the total width of the slope which is undergoing the failure divided by n. N indicates n number of slices. Here n indicates the number of slices, and B indicates the width of your failure surface, or width of the total failure slope. Is the total width of failing slope, and small b indicates the width of each slice. Okay, so it's the width of each slice which we are representing it as small b. In case if the width of each slice is not same, then we cannot write b is equal to capital B by n. Okay, so my capital B value is this much, what I am referring to. Okay, So this distance is my capital B. Right. Yeah. Now let's quickly go on to understand. I'll try to see one particular slice, and we'll go on to understand how the forces are acting on that particular slice. And once we know how the forces are acting on that particular slice, then we can go on to write down our expression for how much is the force being resisted along the failure surface and how much is the force causing the failure in that particular soil. Then we can go on to apply our factor of safety. We can go on to write down the expression for factor of safety. Okay. So quickly, let's understand how do we write down the factor of safety, because as it is a rotational mode of failure, so we write down the factor of safety either in terms of the forces or either in terms of the moment. Okay. So moment, how much is the moment causing the rotation? How much is the moment which is resisting the rotation about the center of that particular failure surface? So we write down the expressions and we write down what is called as your factor of safety. We go on to calculate what is your factor of safety. Okay. So now let's quickly understand. Let's say I'm trying to choose one slice where, let's say, the width of that particular slice, what I have chosen is B. The weight of that particular chosen slice is something WT, or I can more specifically write it as WI. Okay. So I indicates it is the ith slice. It could be any slice, slice 1 or slice 2 or slice 3 or slice 4, any slice it could be. So I here refers to that of ith slice. Okay. And now I am going to consider at the mid distance position of your failure surface. Okay. So when I say at the mid distance, this is from here to here, you are defining your failure surface, where though it is a curved surface, we are approximating this to be a straight line as the width of the element is relatively small. So your curved surface or the straight line, more or less, you will not have much variation in terms of the dimension what you are specifying there. And here, the failure surface, whatever I am going to be defining, will be defined at the mid distance position. So here I am going to define what is called as an angle alpha I. Okay, just see here with the center of the width of the chosen element with respect to that of your center point. Let me say the center point is somewhere here with respect to the chosen position of the element O. So with respect to the chosen element O, at the mid distance of the width of your chosen element, I repeat, at the mid distance of the width of the chosen element, I am going to define an angle. Okay. So let's say with the vertical, the angle made with the mid distance position of your failure arc at the base with the vertical at the center, that angle is nothing but I can call it as alpha I. That's otherwise I can also call it as the slope of this particular failure surface at the mid distance position, which is nothing but alpha I. Now, what does that alpha I indicate? Alpha I, according to our general terminology, it's simply nothing but it's the angle at which your failure surface is existing. So, but that angle, what I am just trying to represent, is indicated with respect to the mid distance position. So, why are we defining this angle with respect to the mid distance position? Means whenever you are trying to look at, because each element has got some weight. Now, how much is the rotation caused about point O because of that weight of that particular element? Means how much is your force causing the rotation in the soil element if I want to calculate. So weight into perpendicular distance we generally write down. So if this is the vertical axis direction, so your weight Wi is at what perpendicular distance? Means I can say it is something xi. Okay, so I am representing it with respect to the mid distance position of your chosen width of that particular slice. Now, if I consider that perpendicular distance with reference to this edge, then the perpendicular distance is something. With respect to the other edge of the slice, it would be different. So that's the reason why. So mid position, because CG of the element is generally going to be acting at the mid distance of that particular chosen slice. If I consider it to be a more or less an approximate rectangular slice, so mid distance or the CG of that particular slice is going to be at the mid width distance of that particular slice. So that's the reason why your so-called failure surface, what we are representing to indicate the alpha angle, is also represented the mid distance, that is at the mid distance position of your width of the slice. Okay. So if I say the failure surface is making an angle of inclination alpha I with the horizontal, so at the center position with the point what we are referring to is the mid distance or mid position of your arc of the failure surface with the horizontal. So this angle we are also going to be getting it as alpha I. So from simple trigonometry, from simple geometry, so if this angle here with the failure surface is alpha I, so your radial direction what you are defining, this direction, this distance is r. Okay, so this direction is always considered to be perpendicular to your failure surface. So your radius of the arc direction is always considered to be perpendicular to your failure surface. So this normal with the vertical, how much inclination it is going to be making means it's simply nothing but alpha I. Okay, so that's how we go on to understand how to represent the forces acting on that particular slice. So once we know the weight represented, once we understand the at what angle of inclination the failure surface is going to be existing and so on, then how do we calculate the force causing the failure in your slice and the force which is getting resisted along the failure surface in that particular slice. Okay, so if I go on to calculate how much is the force getting resisted, how much is the force causing the failure in the slope of that particular slice, so we can go on to simply write down your expression for factor of safety. So if you go on to look at your expressions, what we have been similarly talking about earlier also. So total resisting moment, if I want to know, I repeat, total resisting moment if I want to calculate, total resisting moment is nothing but total resisting force. Where does that total resisting force get developed? Along that failure surface. Okay, so along that failure surface, how much is my total resisting force? So that total resisting force is getting developed tangential to your failure surface. So once I know my total resisting force, which I am writing it as capital TR. So once the total resisting force is known, we know that your total resisting force, which is tangential to the failure surface, is at a perpendicular distance, which is equal to the radius of your arc of that particular failure surface. Okay, so total resisting force into the corresponding perpendicular distance about the center point. If I calculate the moment, that is what we are representing it as your resisting moment. So resisting moment is nothing but resisting force into the radius of your failure arc. Okay, and here that so-called alpha I, what I have represented, so I can simply call it as angle to the center of the base of the slice with the vertical. Okay, so how much is the angle that is made to the center of the base of your slice with the vertical? That angle is what we are writing it as your alpha I. In the other way, I can also call it as the angle at which your failure surface is existing when defined with respect to the center of the base of the slice with the horizontal. So that is also nothing but it is simply represented as alpha I. Okay, now if I want to go on to calculate your how much is the resisting moment. So resisting moment is nothing but we said it is your resisting force into the radius of the failure arc. Radius of the failure arc is something, let's say I know from trial and for that chosen failure surface, I know how much is the radius it is making with the center point. Now I want to know what is your total shear resisting force along that particular base of the slice. Now, if I want to know the total shear resisting force, total shear resisting resistance force along the base of the slice, so it's nothing but, as I am saying, it is force. So force is nothing but stress into the area on which that particular stress was represented. Okay, so how much is your total shear resisting stress? What does this total shear resisting stress mean? It is nothing but it is the shear strength of the soil. Okay, how much is the shear stress getting resisted? It's nothing but it is the shear strength of that particular soil, what is existing along that particular failure surface. So that defines you what is your shear resisting stress into the area on which that particular shear resisting stress is existing. So what is the area on which that particular shear stress is existing? Okay, if I am looking at a particular slice, what is the area on which that particular shear stress being resisted was represented. So area of the base of your failure surface. Okay, so area, what is existing at the base of your slice. When I say base of the slice, so at the base of each slice only we are representing your failure surface. So how much is the area available at the base of that particular slice? So we approximated the base of the slice to be relatively by means of a horizontal, an inclined line instead of considering it to be a curved line. So we are approximating by means of a straight line. So here in this case, it's an inclined line. So if I know what is that dimension of the inclined line, and in this direction, we assume always for every one unit dimension in this direction perpendicular to the screen. So if at all I can calculate what is the L value of that particular ith slice, then my life, my job is almost done. Then once the L value is known, so area on which that particular stress was acting means, so it's nothing but Li length, which is the length of your base of the failure surface, what you are representing. So Li into 1 unit width in this direction perpendicular to the screen. Okay. So if I want to calculate what is my Li value, that Li, what I am going to be writing down is nothing but it is equal to B by cos alpha I. How can I write down Li is equal to B by cos alpha I? If I go on to quickly see, your Li is nothing but it's an inclined surface. Okay. So if I say this is my slice, what I am looking at, I am approximating this to be an inclined straight line. Okay. So this dimension is what I am calling it as Li. It's the length along the base of that failure surface approximated to be a straight line of the ith slice. Yeah. So we know that this width, what we are looking at is B, width of the slice is B. Or if I say the width of each slice is different, then I can go on to write it as Bi to indicate if it is for the first slice, if I am talking about width of slice 1. If I am talking about second slice, it is the width of the slice 2. If it is third slice, width of the slice 3. So accordingly, we will be writing it. And we said that this angle at which the base of the failure surface is at an inclination alpha I with the horizontal. So if the angle, this angle is alpha I with the horizontal, then automatically, so from simple trigonometry, I can go on to say Li is the inclined length and Bi is your width, what you see. So I can go on to write down what is cos alpha I. Cos alpha I is nothing but adjacent side. Okay, adjacent side is your width of the slice, that is Bi, divided by your hypotenuse, which is Li. So from that, I am writing down Li is nothing but width of that particular slice. To be more specific, if I want to write it as width is different for each of the slice, then I can go on to write it as Bi. Bi indicates the width of that ith slice divided by cos of alpha angle of that particular ith slice, because as we said, the failure surface is making different angle of inclinations with reference to different position. So I am writing it as alpha I specifically. So once your Li is known, then Li into 1 gives you what is your area on which that particular shearing stress was represented. So shear stress into area on which that particular shear stress was acting gives you what is your total shear resisting force. So once the total shear resisting force is known, total shear resisting force into perpendicular distance, that's the radius of the arc, failure arc, will tell you how much is your resisting moment. Now, how do I know how much was my shear resistance in terms of the stress offered by the soil, which otherwise is also called as your shear strength of the soil? So how do we write down this? So shear strength is, shear strength rather, how do we write down? Is nothing but C plus sigma tan phi, where in terms of effective stresses, because if the slope is in a submerged state, then we have to calculate your stresses there in terms of your effective stresses, and we have to represent there. Or if the slope is in a dry state, then I can simply go on to represent your C phi parameters or your sigma n in terms of your total strength parameters. Okay, so this is your expression for tau r. Okay, So once your expression for tower is known into the area on which that particular tower stress was acting, that gives you the shear resisting force from which you can get your resisting moment. So this is the expression what we have for shear resisting force, and shear resisting force into perpendicular distance is your total moment being resisted. So what does this sigma n dash here refers to? So generally sigma n dash is nothing but sigma n minus u. If the effect of pore water pressure is 0, then sigma n dash is nothing but sigma n. In case if the soil is in a submerged state, then we are required to consider your effect of pore water pressure also, and accordingly we have to be writing down your expression for sigma n dash, where sigma n dash comes out to be sigma n minus the pore water pressure. Okay, so here we are not talking about the condition of your submergence, but in case if the submergence is there, then your pore water pressure term should also be brought into consideration. Okay, so sigma n or sigma n dash is what I can write it as. What is normal stress? It's normal force by the area on which that particular normal force was acting. Okay, so what is my normal force? I can write it as, let me write it as Wi to be more specific. Why I am writing it as Wi? Wi indicates the weight of that ith slice into cos alpha I. Alpha I indicates it is your angle at which the failure surface of that particular slice is existing with the horizontal, divided by Li. Li indicates the length of that failure surface of that ith slice into 1 for every 1 unit width in this direction perpendicular to the screen. So I can simplify my expression like this. Okay, so I'm going to be writing down my expression. I'm just adding everywhere in this representation. I have not included I everywhere. I everywhere indicates it is the ith slice what I am looking at, because for all the slices same conditions are not satisfied. Same for each of the slice, length is not same as like what I talked about. Everything gets changed. Angle at which the failure surface is existing is changing. The width of the slice, in case if you don't consider the width of each of the slice to be same, that is also getting changed. So that's the reason why I am representing in simple way. It is for ith slice. So whatever I am trying to talk about is for ith slice. So everywhere, wherever you have simple terms represented, I am adding what is called as I. Yeah. So now let's quickly understand. Yeah. Once I know this is my total resisting force, moment causing the resistance is what I have understood by representing it, which is nothing but resisting force into perpendicular distance. Now, how much is that moment which is causing the disturbance, which is trying to cause the driving in your soil? So that force which is responsible for causing the driving in the soil. If you look at here, weight component is going to be resolved into, weight of that particular ith slice is going to be resolved into components. So where I'll be saying it as weight of the slice component in the tangential direction to the failure surface, component of the weight perpendicular to your failure surface. Now, if you look at the component of the weight which is perpendicular to your failure surface, if the direction of that weight component is extended, it will go and coincide with the center of your failure arc. Okay. So once you say your normal component is getting coincided with the center of the failure arc, so this normal component will not induce any kind of rotation. Okay, so your normal force component of the weight is not going to be responsible for causing any amount of rotation in the soil, because the line of action of that normal force component is coinciding with the center. Then what is that particular force component which is responsible for causing the driving along the failure surface? Means it's the weight component which is tangential to the failure surface. Now, what is the component of that weight which is tangential to the failure surface? So it's simply nothing but Wi into sine alpha I. And once you know the tangential force component is Wi into sine alpha I. So it is said to be tangential to your failure surface. That because of that much force, your failure is being represented in your slope. Okay. So I can go on to write down your moment, which is causing the driving in your slope of that particular ith slice is nothing but because of the weight component Wi into sine alpha I into corresponding perpendicular distance with respect to the tangential surface of your failure to the center of your arc of the circle. So it's nothing but radius r into force component is wi into sine alpha I. So force into perpendicular distance defines you what is the disturbing moment. Yeah, I'm just indicating my notations in terms of alpha I and bi, li, okay, and wi. So even the wi also indicates what is called as weight of that ith slice what I am looking at. So resisting moment is known, driving moment is known. So you can go on to simply put them into the expression of your factor of safety, and you will be getting the expression for your factor of safety like this. Okay, so this is in simple terms, but however, as we are dividing the total area into n number of slices, more appropriately, if I am required to be representing it, so let me write down all that expressions what I have represented earlier with the notations I term. So let me give me 1 minute to represent the I term for each of them. Okay, now this factor of safety what I am trying to write down is only for one particular slice. Likewise, I have got n number of slices in that representation. So what should I write it as? Then I have to write it as summation I going from 1 to n, both in the numerator as well as in your denominator, summation I going from 1 to n, because if your total slope width is divided into n number of slices, so what we have written or what we have calculated is for a particular slice. Likewise, if I have got n number of slices existing, the total factor of safety against the failure, if I am trying to talk about, so it's nothing but summation I going from 1 to n. What does that 1 to n indicate? So for slice 1 plus slice 2 plus slice 3 plus slice 4 and so on, for n number of slices, what is your total resisting force divided by what is your driving force? Okay, so what is your total driving force along the failure surface is what is to be calculated by considering each of the slice in the denominator, as well as total force being resisted along your failure surface for all the n number of slices put together is what is to be calculated and to be represented in the numerator. That gives me what is called as your subsequent factor of safety. Okay, so this moment what we are trying to talk about as the resisting moment is for some particular slice only, maybe some ith slice. So for all the slices put together, if I want to calculate what is your total moment getting resisted, so in fact the factor of safety is more specifically what I should be writing at as summation I going from 1 to n, moment getting resisted for that ith slice divided by summation going from 1 to n, moment causing the sliding in your driving moment for that corresponding ith slice. So likewise, I can write your terms, and accordingly, I can try to calculate your factor of safety. Okay. So now, in case if your pore water pressure term is also taken into consideration, I repeat, in case if your pore water pressure term is also coming into picture, then I have to write down the expression carefully in terms of your pore water pressure also. So in such case, your expression for factor of safety would slightly get modified like this. Summation I going from 1 to n, C dash bi secant alpha I plus, see the change where we are coming across, wi cos alpha I repeat, wi cos alpha I was the normal force component. Okay, so wi cos alpha I divided by li into 1 was your normal stress. Okay, normal stress on which area it was acting, we said it is nothing but li into 1. So that li, this li in the denominator got cancelled, and accordingly you went on to write down your expression saying that that is your normal force component. So normal force minus the force corresponding to your pore water pressure. Okay, so that's nothing but I'll write it as the pore water pressure getting developed at the base of your ith slice into what is the length on which that particular the area on which that particular pore water pressure was getting developed. So the area on which that particular pore water pressure was getting developed was Li into 1. So I can simply write it as Li. So this is your normal force minus the force due to your pore water pressure into tan phi dash. Okay. So if you are using C dash term, then accordingly I have to use your phi dash term. This total divided by summation I going from 1 to n Wi into sine alpha I. See, sometimes you will be writing it as Wi into sine alpha I by resolving your weight component normal to your failure surface, tangential to your failure surface, and you are writing down your expression. Sometimes you may not be resolving it into components. You will be simply writing it as weight of that particular slice into the corresponding perpendicular distance, what that slice, CG of the weight of that slice is making with the vertical, that so-called perpendicular distance, what we are representing. Earlier, I hope I have represented it as something xi. Okay. So let me quickly show you that. What is that? Yeah, here is that xi, what I was trying to talk about. So your driving moment, either I can write it as your Wi into xi, or I can go on to resolve your Wi into components, and then because of that weight component, I can go on to write down the expression, and accordingly I can calculate. So either of the way you write, so you will be getting the same. Okay. So this is all about your method of slices. Ultimately, the analysis is nothing different. Whatever we have talked about in your Swedish circle method, the same thing is what we are trying to talk about even now. The difference what we are trying to talk about here is the total width of the failure surface is divided into n number of slices, and for each of the slice we are trying to calculate how much is the force getting resisted, how much is the force that is causing the driving in the slope, or at least in that particular slice what we have considered. So once we know it for one slice, then for all the number of slices that we have there, if I want to approximate it and calculate, so we are saying it to be like summation I going from 1 to n. So total moment getting resisted by total moment causing the driving. That's how we are going to be calculating the factor of safety for that particular slope based on what is called as method of slices. We call it as ordinary method of slices, which is given by Fellenius. So we also otherwise call it as Fellenius method. Okay, so how do we identify what is called as your critical slip surface? In the earlier class also I have talked about. So how to identify a critical slip surface means, what is meant by critical slip surface? It is going to be the failure surface. If at all the failure is happening in that particular slope, so failure would surely happen along that particular failure surface only. So how do we identify that critical slip surface? So it is nothing but by trial and error process, whatever we have talked about earlier. So we choose some center point about which the failure is assumed to be getting developed, and with that point as center with different radius, we go on to draw different failure surfaces, and we go on to calculate for each of the considered failure surface what is the factor of safety, and least of all those factor of safeties what you get for different considered failure surface is what is considered as the critical failure surface for that chosen center. Likewise, we go on to choose different center points about which you go on to calculate your critical slip surfaces for each center point. Now, for n number of centers, if I am talking about my critical slip surfaces, out of all those critical slip surfaces, there exists one critical slip surface which has got the least factor of safety out of all the other critical slip surfaces which you have defined with different centers. So then identify which is that critical of all the critical slip surfaces which has got the least factor of safety, which is with some center point. So that point as center with that failure surface, if at all the failure is happening, so failure will initially get initiated in that slope about that particular surface. So that is what is called as your critical slip surface. So as discussed, like you will have many slip surfaces that are possible in any slope, but out of all those different slip surface which is having minimum factor of safety, the least factor of safety, is what is considered as your critical slip surface or critical failure surface or critical failure plane. And our objective is to understand which is my critical slip circle or critical failure surface. Then we are required to design your slope in a way to satisfy that your critical failure surface will not get generated. So design has to satisfy the safety against that particular critical slip surface. So if at all failure is happening, we said failure will certainly get initiated along that particular surface. So if I know where the failure is going to be happening, so if I can design my slope in a way that I can manage to see that there is no failure getting developed along that failure surface, then automatically I can ensure the safety of that particular slope.